Without further ado, I'll turn the lectern over. Jenny's not here, so our speaker today is past President John Elrick, who's going to talk to us about artificial intelligence. So, John Elrick.
Oh my God, you left me 20 minutes. I only planned on 15. Okay, well, this is firing back up. Last night, in this very room, as Stan and Roy can both sadly testify, I delivered a paper at Torch Club on the subject of artificial intelligence. This is not that paper because we don't have that much time. However,
recording.
So since I don't have 40 minutes, what I'm going to do is start off by giving you a little bit of a demonstration of ChatGPT and then talk about it while we're in the process. I'm going to screen share. How many people know or have heard of ChatGPT out of curiosity? How many people have used ChatGPT out of curiosity? How many people understand what a transformer is and have read the Google, or the DeepMind paper on attention is all that you need?
Could you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I can speak up a little bit. How many people have actually read the paper, Attention is All You Need by DeepMind, that led to it? Probably nobody. I haven't read it either, don't worry about it. I've read through it, but understanding it is something completely different. Okay, we should be, are we sharing now? Yeah, good. All right. This is the interface for ChatGPT. Get out of my way, Zoom. So I decided I'd do something very simple. Let it start going on this, and then I will talk while it's actually doing its job. So the Rotary Club of Winchester holds an annual apple harvest festival. This is a fundraiser with the proceeds benefiting the Frederick County area. There is crafts, a car show. Let's see what else. We've got beer and cider, food, and activities for kids. Pretend you are an advertising copywriter. Suggest 7 marketing blurbs to be placed in Facebook to encourage people to attend. Okay. Let me tell you how this works. There's this guy. He's got a job. He's sitting in a room. He's got a typewriter in front of him, a machine in front of him that's full of Chinese characters. Only one thing, he doesn't know what Chinese is. Never seen Chinese in his life. He doesn't even know Chinese is a language. He just knows he's stuck in this room, locked in there. He's got a job. One day, printout comes in. There's a stream of these little symbols and little characters. And a question, what character comes next? So he hits something at random. Wrong character. It's this one. A different character comes up. Then another stream comes out and says, what character comes next? The guy's kind of puzzled, so he hits a character at random. That's not it. It's this one. This continues for a couple of decades. And then one day, he gets a stream of characters and he presses the button, and instead of a burp, he gets a ding. You got it right. And he actually feels good. It's the first time he's felt good in decades. And then another stream comes through, and this time he gets it wrong. But then another stream comes through and he gets it right. He starts to notice something. Wait a minute, there's a pattern going on here. If these symbols are like this one probably comes next. And if this comes this one probably comes next. He keeps doing this, and he actually starts keeping statistics and keeping notes about what characters follow what characters. He still doesn't understand Chinese. He doesn't have a clue what this stuff is. But he's starting to guess more and more often, this is the next character that comes. And he gets to a point where, by golly, 70% of the time, he hears the ding instead of the little bird. And then on that day, he gets a stream of characters, and he presses the character, and no sound. He just gets the stream of characters, including the character we just added. And the question, what comes next? So this is another character. And he keeps going, and keeps going, and keeps going, and all of a sudden he says, you know what, I don't think there's any more characters here. So he presses the end button. And what he doesn't realize is the initial message was a question. How do I open a door? And the characters that he had pressed said, you turn the handle and push. Now you have heard about this guy, so you go visit him. Now this guy's learning Chinese, man. I want to see how good he actually is. So you walk in, talk to the guy, and say, hey, what's a Chinese character for dog? He goes, a what? What are you talking about? This is just symbols, you know? Don't get philosophical about this stuff. Come on. And at that minute, another printout comes in. And you can tell as he's starting to get to work on it, he doesn't have a clue what that printout says. But he's pushing symbols, one after another, one after another, one after another. So you read Chinese. You know it says, are you really a computer? Or are you a human being doing statistics? Do you really understand Chinese? And he keeps typing, and gets to the end without realizing he answered, of course I speak Chinese fluently. How else could I be talking to you? And that is how ChatGPT works. Let's see what it came up with. Well, we got our 7. They're probably all crap, but they're a starting point for somebody to edit and stick onto Facebook. Embrace the spirit of autumn at the Apple Harvest Festival, presented by the Rotary Club of Winchester. Discover an abundance of crafts, admire stunning automobiles, savor the taste of local beer and cider, treat yourself to mouth-watering food, and create everlasting memories with your kids. Join us in making a positive impact on the Frederick County. Actually, that's not too damn bad. I wasn't expecting that. Let's see here. I'm just going to set this down. You can all hear me well enough for whenever I say, this is for Gene's benefit. Suggest 5 ways of reaching out to professionals in the Winchester, Frederick County area to encourage them to look at joining Rotary. Anybody type this fast? Guest speaking invitations. Approach professional organizations, industry associations, and local business clubs to offer to be a guest speaker at their events and meetings. Deliver a compelling presentation on the value of Rotary membership, focusing on the professional networking opportunities, leadership development, and community impact. Engage the audience through success stories and real life examples. Actually, I hadn't thought of that when I was president. What's wrong with all that's COVID? Never mind. Online platforms. Use online platforms such as LinkedIn. We are missing LinkedIn, by the way. We do have Facebook, and that's not really as good as LinkedIn would be. Collaborate with local businesses, partner with local businesses. Well, we got a bunch of the business leaders in here already. That's probably not as big of an idea, but hey, you never know. That might be a good one. Networking events. We do that occasionally. All right. Here's some half-decent ideas here. Anybody got a question for ChatGPT?
How do you open a door?
How do you open a door? Opening a door typically involves the following steps. Approach the door, walk toward the door, and stand in front of it, ensuring you're facing it directly. Locate the doorknob or handle. Look for the doorknob or handle, which is usually positioned at a convenient height on the door. Grip the doorknob or handle. Place your hand around the doorknob or handle, ensuring a firm but comfortable grip. Turn or twist the doorknob. Depending on the type of door you need to turn the doorknob clockwise or counterclockwise, or twist the handle in the appropriate direction. This action releases the latch or lock mechanism that keeps the door. Aren't you sorry you asked this question? So this did not exist in October. It did exist, but it did not released to the world. And this is not the free version. I started buying the paid version because I was doing all that research. We are in approximately 1983 in the computer world, or 1992 in the days of the internet. This stuff is exploding faster than anything I have seen in 42 years of being in IT. ChatGPT broke every record in the world, reaching 100 million users in 2 months. 2 months. The previous record holders were Instagram at 9 months. No, TikTok. It was TikTok at 9 months, and I think it was Snapchat before that at 2.5 years. Sir.
I would like your feedback or input, or anyone in this room. So in higher education, one of the things that we want to try to impart on our students is being able to critically think. So we give them an assignment and they're able to say, hey, write this paper for me, and then it writes the paper. Really, they haven't really exercised the thought process of critically thinking. And greatest example, I was in Dallas for the Super Bowl, and they were using their phones to try to find out where we're going, but once they didn't have a connection, they didn't know what to do next. Not knowing that 40 years ago, the only way we found where we were going was you had to critically assess, you had to critically think your way through it to find it. So what do you got, I mean, for particularly higher education, but I can't even second.
You should read my paper. It was on education. Okay, for represent last night, it was on education.
Wow.
So the short-term answer is that if you ever try to write, can you write a high school level essay using ChatGPT? Yes. Can you recognize it was written by AI? Yeah, if you got a brain. You'll spot the patterns. You'll spot it. Read 2 or 3 of these. You'll see there's some rote repetition that's built into it. It tends to follow a very good formal structure, but no. And if you get beyond 500 words, you're screwed. You try to get, I've tried it. You try to get to 1,000, 2,000 word essay, forget it. It's going to crap out. People won't be able to do it. Now, when you can do this work, believe it or not, there's whole YouTube videos from doctoral candidates and doctoral students talking about using ChatGPT for research and for literature reviews. So for doing baseline research or building an initial outline, this thing can be extremely useful to get your brain going. But if anybody thinks their kids are gonna coast their way through school by going to ChatGPT and asking it to do their homework for them, they got that thing coming from. They ain't gonna do it. I'll tell you one thing that ChatGPT cannot do. This is an example of a limitation. It's a limitation of the entire approach that they're using. Remember, I told you how this step-by-step process works. And the Chinese room thing's an oversimplification, but not by much. But here was an experiment that I conducted that I read out of somebody posting on one of the AI groups on LinkedIn. You write in the prompt, print 3 sentences or generate 3 sentences explaining the virtues of participation in citizenship. Each sentence must end with the words "for all." The last 2 words have to be "for all." It cannot do it. It will generate the sentences themselves. Every experiment I tried, the first 2 ended in "for all," the third one had "for all," but it was embedded inside of the sentence. And the reason is it can't look forward, it can only look backward and reflect back on what was written. Now you can then add another prompt and say, revise the above sentences so they all end with the words "for all." Nails it. This points to one of the limitations, and it's a built-in limitation of how the system works. It can't look ahead. And this is one of the things that they're tackling right now, is how do we deal with these critical limitations that just cannot be worked around without completely revising how the model works, which, by the way, is underway already. 10 minutes before I left for the Torch meeting last night to present the paper, it was on YouTube, and it turns out that 2 days ago, Microsoft released a new paper on a new open source version called Orca. This thing is not open source. It's open source. You can download this sucker and use it and play with it on your computer. Orca is a completely different approach. It is pretty much as good as, not this one, this is GPT 3.5, that one is GPT 4. It's almost as good as GPT 4, but it does it in a fraction of the size. And you can download this sucker, and if you know Python, you can play around with it. If you don't know Python, make sure your kids learn Python, because they're going to need to know it.
The ChatGPT can run a little Python for you too.
Oh yeah, ChatGPT can, yeah. Oh my God, yes. They were terrified of coding disappearing. No, it's not going to happen. Yes, ma'am.
I'm following up on Fritz's question. You're saying now that they couldn't do a paper, you know that you catch it. But you're talking about how fast all of this is growing and revising. It sounds, if I'm understanding correctly, this is what we've got off. In a short period of time, they will be able to do that.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. Now, Solomon Khan Academy is trying to get ahead of this. He put together, there's a TED Talk that he did and a couple of other things that he did. This was part of the paper too. Remember, it was one of the central focuses. He's created a product that's integrated into Khan Academy. It's currently in beta. It's called Khanmigo. And the idea of Khanmigo is it is an AI tutoring system that uses GPT-4 as the back end that integrates with Khan Academy. And the idea is the school system gives the kids homework. They're going to do it in Khan Academy. And they're sitting there and they get stuck. They can bring up Khanmigo and they say, hey, I'm stuck. How do I solve this problem? But instead of giving them the answer, it says, oh, okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this problem step by step. I can read what you're looking at right now. And, okay, let's take a look. Let's start with this. What is the answer to what is this particular step that you take? And if they get it wrong, it says, that was a very good try. Let's take a look at it, and it figures out what they didn't understand. And then starts to feed it back in, and get them all the way through. And as Saul Khan said, and they're not operating in a vacuum, the teachers know this is going on. They have access to the streams of information, and everything's going through this one particular loop. So basically, it's taking Saul Khan's original idea of adaptive learning that adapts to the capabilities and knowledge of the student, but he's adding some special sauce to it to take it to the next level. So it can really drill down on where the students learn factors. In a speech last night, Harry Holloway, who's an educator at Clark County, pointed out the fact that the big problem with ChatGPT is, what is this going to do for assessment? How do you assess people? I said, the problem is no longer assessment. Assessment is now useless. We've known that for years. I'm sorry, we've known that assessments and tests are the worst way to assess. They're the poor man's version of tutoring. So if you're tutoring somebody, if I'm teaching Marty one-on-one in a room, I don't have to give him an assessment. I can ask him questions, he'll tell me the answers, and I'll know from those answers whether or not he knows what we're talking about. We can't do that with 30 people, we can't do it with 300 people. So what's the next step forward? Well, the key there is if the kids want to learn, and by the way, that's a hard problem. If they want to learn the materials that you're trying to teach them, you don't have to worry about assessing them. The assessments are to help the kids understand what they don't understand. And that's called a hard problem. We've been dodging it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, ever since we found out it existed. James,
We're at risk.
where do you want to start?
It's just initially, I mean, in terms of whether it's, we're looking at it from the lens of a parent with students in the classroom or all the individuals that might be using this for, I don't know, call it that.
The main risks. So first off, it hallucinates because it is coming up with ideas that are based upon the data that's consumed, which is the entire web. It's read 50 trillion words. And those words don't always agree with each other. So they will hallucinate. There was a lawyer that found this out to his eternal regret. He used ChatGPT to do his legal research. Then stupidly, in the exact same chat line, because the chat line, the threads keep track of what I was talking about before, asked, now are all these cases real? And ChatGPT said, of course they are. And so he copied and pasted, stuck it in the document, submitted to the courts, and it turned out that 3 of the cases had absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with the subject matter at hand, and the rest of them didn't even exist. So there's risk number 1. This thing hallucinates. Now, why does it hallucinate? Remember, this poor guy is guessing the characters that come next. Well, sometimes different characters follow him. And sometimes they get off on the wrong path. There was a problem that turned up early. It was called the blue wolf. And somebody typed in and said, tell me about blue wolves. And ChatGPT told them all about blue wolves. Except for one problem, there's no such thing as a blue wolf. But there is a white wolf, and it answered the question, the white wolves. Now, what do white and blue have in common? Colors. So it knew that they were colors, and it said, oh, I can't find anything on blue. Wait, what color can I find it on? White. But it kept using the word blue all over the conversation. So that's risk number 2. We're going to go to the bigger level risks, disinformation. You can use this thing to create unbelievably convincing disinformation very, very quickly. You can use this, and by the way, guess what? There's a country called China that is investing very heavily into cognitive warfare using AI right now. It broke in Japan Times last week. Because they realize the best way to win a war is not to fight, it's to convince your enemy not to fight you. So there's just a couple of the risks are all, what are the risks? In 1992, what were the risks of the internet? Who knows? Next question. This is an incredibly abbreviated talk. I talked for 40 minutes last night. I told the board the problem is getting it down to 40. I can talk for 5 days. And actually, I talked for 40 minutes out of the paper. And how long were we in there answering questions and talking? Another hour. So, thanks for your yes.
It's creative.
It was created by a company called OpenAI, which was founded back in 2010. Sam Altman is one of the heads of OpenAI. And they originally created it because they were trying to create a company that was outside the scope of Microsoft, Facebook, Google. So it would be a different organization that would be investing in AI. Prior to that, the biggest investors into AI, the biggest one was DeepMind, which was purchased by Google. They're the ones that did all the breakthroughs that started all this stuff. Then Microsoft, because they wanted to be able to support Bing and compete with Google. And then Facebook. Interestingly enough, Facebook, although they've been using AI heavily in their algorithms to figure out machine learning or anything else to figure out what to pop up in front of your face. They didn't bother creating one of these things internally. Instead, the code got leaked. And so you can actually download the models that Facebook was working on. They're called Llama. There's a fork called Alpaca, and you could literally download them. Again, you have to know coding to actually understand them, but you can pull them down and use them. Those are the guys that started. The actual starting point was way back in the 1940s. It was John von Neumann, Alan Turing, a guy named Rosenblatt, who did some of the initial research on neural networks, basically simulating the way the human brain worked inside of software. Those are the guys that originally started it, and just kept rolling. Okay, I've talked long enough.